Hello everyone and welcome to this extra special bonus edition of Skipton Talks. I have on the sofa with me today two industry A-listers, Andrew Montlake and Nicola Goldie. Welcome Nick and Monty. Fantastic to see you here. The first question is obviously, did you get lost on the way to go somewhere else? Because you've arrived on my sofa this morning. I'm joking aside, really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us. I'm going to get straight into it. Monty, first of all, you've spoken a lot about broker well-being, particularly recently. So are firms and individuals paying enough attention to well-being in the workplace?
I think it's still a very mixed bag. You've had some excellent stuff come through, like the mortgage industry mental health charter and all the stuff that they've been doing, which has really brought that to the fore a lot more. And some firms have embraced it. There's loads of signatories to that now, which is great. We need more. But other firms are still quite backwards. And part of the problem in our industry, especially as a broker, from a broker point of view, is that it still feels that sometimes people don't really understand what a broker's job is and the stress and strains that go with that. You're dealing with clients who are, they're buying their dream home, so they're stressed, they're anxious, they want to get it moving quickly, especially if you're in like a fast moving market where everything needs to be now. And so there seems to be a little bit of disorientation between, say, a broker and a lender sometimes. So for example, last week, one lender, not yourselves obviously, pulled rates at sort of 4 o'clock and gave us until 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was submitting a case, I'd spoken to the client, I'd sold them the rate, so I then had to spend 3-4 hours getting documentation between them, etc., etc. It just happened that was my day at home cooking the kids dinner, and they were knocking on the door going, when's dinner going to be? And I was struggling, and so I was really stressed about that. Multiply that, and the mental health thing, I do think is a bit of a crisis in our industry.
And if it's a one-off, it happens.
Yeah.
But if it's repeated and repeated
Correct.
and repeated,
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Nick, your view on.
Yeah, I fully agree with you actually, and I think across our industry we've definitely gone through a roller coaster. Probably, well, it's ever changing, isn't it, in industry? But really, particularly in the last couple of years, that type of behaviour has heightened significantly, hasn't it? So it's been great to see different lenders come out and commit to longer time frames to actually take rates away, for example, recognising that there is that additional stress, and that stress goes both ways, right? It's definitely from a broker and advisor point of view, but also the pressure that's in the lending teams that have got to make those changes quickly as well. So very often you've got product teams in over weekends and making changes as well. So it's something that we're all in together, and we all need to be really conscious and cognizant of to try and make sure that we are supporting our colleagues, supporting our kind of lender and broker partners, because it's very real. And as much as I'd love to say I'm sure it'll all calm down in 2025, 2025 has started in that same vein. Yeah. So I think we need to keep finding those ways to help and support each other with that mental health journey. I think it's super
you're
important.
Right. It's not just the brokers. The business development managers are right in the middle of that as well. Yeah. And they're the ones that sometimes look like they've been through hell and back.
And rate withdrawals aside, in the office when we're working with our peers and our colleagues or our employees, what should we be looking out for? What are the tells that maybe an individual could do with some additional support, do you think?
So it's really, there was a brilliant ad by, I think it was Norwich City Football Club. If you haven't seen it, Google it, around mental health. It's fantastic. And it's very hard to spot those signs sometimes, especially if you're not trained. I'd definitely say one thing we've done is get a couple of your people trained as mental health first aiders.
Okay.
That's a really easy step to do. Every office should have at least one. And then it's just talking. It's just, are you okay? No, really, you sure it's okay? It's asking twice, because then sometimes you get a sense of it. Sometimes the happiest, smiliest person can be the one suffering. So it is really hard, but all we try and do is just talk. and I mention it almost every sales meeting I have, is, do you know what? I know I talk about it, but my door is always open. If you've got a problem, whatever it is, just talk.
Okay, yeah, that's really helpful. Nick, I want to talk a bit about the DE&I stuff that we recently discussed, and in particular, the fatigue around the subject, or the fatigue around the conversation. So, is it a thing? And if it is a thing, what should we be doing to keep the conversations going forward?
So, is it a thing? Yeah, yes, it's a thing. I think sadly, DE&I kind of has become a word where there's a little bit of a sigh and a little bit of sort of reticence potentially in some areas. There are still some very passionate people about changing things in this space, but I think where we need to build on this is that DE&I encompasses so much, right? It encompasses every person. It doesn't matter your gender, your ethnicity, your age. Somewhere along the line, you will have somebody in your life, if not yourself, that is impacted in some way, shape or form. So it's trying to keep that conversation going and trying to find different ways to make it real to people, trying to bring the examples of, you've got two daughters actually, from a gender perspective, what opportunities will your daughters have in the future, for example, or what might your son need to overcome from a disability perspective when they reach working age, for example. If that's, just trying to switch on that conversation and to keep it going. I think there's two different elements to D&I fatigue as well, though. So I think you can think about it from an individual perspective. So there are lots of people experiencing or championing D&I who are, working super hard to try and make that change. But actually, we've got to be forgiving. We all need to work together on it. And if that fatigue can come from, shouting into a void sometimes, or maybe trying to change something within an organisation that they've not, managed to make that change. Well, actually, it's about then really sort of leaning into the other people that are in that space, the safe spaces that are created across our industry, where I've talked about the IMLA sort of lunch and learn activity. Reach out and find others in a similar position, and don't be afraid to kind of take your foot off that and take a break from being the sort of the person that's challenging and trying to climb that mountain. So I think there's fatigue in terms of, is it just another thing that we've got to deal with and make changes on, but equally the impact can be quite significant from an individual perspective, and that's where additional help and support can often be needed as well. And back to the sort of mental health conversation, that can be really draining. And actually, you might not realise that because they're people can be pioneering in the foreground, but not realising the sort of mental toll that can take. So asking those questions, checking in with them on a regular basis. You're doing a great thing, but is that taking more of a toll on you as an individual than you might have wanted in the first place?
Okay, Monty, fatigue in.
Yeah. I'm fatigued just walking around this building trying to find it.
It's the air. It's the air.
It's the fresh air. I'm not used to it.
You won't be used to it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You do have people come up to you and go, "Oh, D&I, really? Haven't we done that?" There's much more women in the industry now, and they think that's it.
Yeah. Box ticked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interestingly, I got a note from someone in the industry earlier this week, actually yesterday, on LinkedIn that said, we're doing some great things, but just to let you know, I went to 3 or 4 industry events over the past 2-3 months. In most of them, I was the only black face in the room.
Right.
And that is not reflective of society.
Yeah.
So we do have a long way to go. Obviously, there's pressure now, everything that's going on in the US. But, my phrase is woke ain't broke. We have to claim back that word. It's not. It shouldn't be a word of disdain. It's just, and remember what we're trying to do in the industry is just get fresh blood.
Yeah.
We need some new blood in the industry. We need people to be reflective of society. We need clients, when they look at us as brokers or lenders or companies to work for, that reflect them.
Yeah.
And if they can see leaders that look like them, they're going to be enthused to join the industry because they think they've got a path to tread. If they don't see people who look like them,
Yeah, and
why are they going to join?
If they look at an industry which isn't reflective, absolutely,
Correct.
who they want to be and what they want to achieve,
Yeah.
then they won't.
Yeah.
They won't join.
So ultimately, for all of us, I think clients are going to start leading the way in terms of the businesses they want to deal with in the future are ones who show that they're empathetic to their views and their way of looking at the world. And the only way we can do that is with diverse people and diversity of thought.
Listen, before you both realise you're supposed to be somewhere else, I want to thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for watching this extra special bonus edition of Skipton Talks. Thank you.